The well-intentioned extremist and villain who has a point tropes are becoming increasingly popular these days, no thanks to a certain big purple fellow who decided to wipe out half the universe with the snap of his fingers. But Thanos isn't the first big bad whose goal was for the greater good, and went about trying to achieve it through problematic means. If only their schemes weren't so darn sinister. So today we're counting down some of the antagonists in comics and films with the best intentions that were ill-executed, or were plagued by a serious case of narcissism, with our list of the top 10 supervillains who think they're saviors. And at number 10, Ra's al Ghul. Ra's al Ghul is an international criminal mastermind, the leader of the League of Assassins, whose aim is to achieve perfect environmental balance for the world, a goal that he thinks he can achieve by eliminating most of humanity, much to Batman's disdain. His MOs usually involve biological weapons or genetically engineered viruses. Aside from his intellectual brilliance, Ra's is a character who can be boasted for his relentlessness, not only through his willpower and resilience, but also through his ability to keep on coming back, due to the Lazarus Pits, which have the ability to restore the dead. Ra's attempts to achieve environmental balance go beyond the comics too. Played by Liam Neeson in Batman Begins, he gave the Cape Crusader one hell of a run for his money, and even though he was defeated, his daughter made sure to step up 2 films later and also mess with Bruce Wayne. Up next, number 9, Magneto. Magneto's main ambition has always been to have mutants be the superior race. This stems from a need to protect mutants from suffering a horrible fate at the hands of humans, who often persecute them. This is an entirely rational ambition, minus the whole killing humanity thing. He really does have a point. Magneto was a Holocaust survivor, and his cynical philosophy of achieving peace for mutants derives directly from his past experiences. It also doesn't help that humans have been less than kind to mutants over the years. Magneto feels that achieving the survival of mutants should come at the expense of humanity at large. Otherwise, it's mutants who face extinction, and he just so happens to be the one to usher in that survival. Up next, number 8, Poison Ivy. Created back in 1966, Pamela Isley, aka Poison Ivy, has been Batman's most enduring and cunning female villain to date. Sorry, Catwoman doesn't really count as a villain, let's be honest. Ivy is one of the DC Universe's most notorious eco-terrorists, but she doesn't act out of a desire of creating chaos for chaos's sake. Instead, all of her actions and criminal activities are motivated out of a desire to protect the environment and endangered species, to the point where she regards plant life higher than human life. This irreverence towards human life has made her more of a complex character at times, but also a little full of herself, like many other villains on our list. These days though, Poison Ivy is more of an anti-hero, often teaming up with gal pal Harley Quinn instead of plotting acts of mass eco-terrorism, which is probably for the best. Up next, number 7, Caleb from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I'm sure we can all agree that Nathan Fillion is pretty darn great, and while Joss Whedon didn't get his full run with the actor in Firefly like we all would have wanted, Whedon did get to pop him into one of his other hit shows, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, as Caleb, the creepiest priest who ever did priest, or kill, rather. Caleb is a psychotic serial killer. Once a man of God, now a loyal disciple of the First Evil, who is Buffy's most difficult foe, Caleb is very much aware that he's not the head honcho of Operation Let Evil Consume the Earth, but he sure as hell takes great pleasure in being the vessel for the First, and treats the First as a superior force to God, who he must serve, and murder a bunch of potential slayers while doing so. R.I.P. Xander's eye. Up next at 6, Helmut Zemo. While Zemo's motivations and actions may be a little bit more skewed in the comics, he's basically a white supremacist, the Zemo that we were given in the MCU actually chases a more noble cause in Captain America Civil War. The character concocts a plan in which he tricks the members of the Avengers to fight amongst themselves, compromising them from the inside out, instead of just blatantly attacking them. It almost works too. Under the ever-present divider that is the Sokovia Accords, Zemo makes it appear that Bucky Barnes has killed T'Chaka, the king of Wakanda, causing conflict between Steve Rogers and Tony Stark, who were already at opposing ends concerning the Accords. This only gets worse when Tony finds out that Bucky was responsible for killing his parents. Zemo's act against the Avengers is out of revenge for what happened during Age of Ultron in Sokovia, the destruction that killed his family amongst countless others. Up next, number 5, Dr. Doom. A complete megalomaniac, Victor Von Doom has always had his heart bent on world domination, but his reasoning is actually pretty solid. Doom believes that under his control, mankind will only benefit, and be the best that it can be. No world hunger, peace everywhere, seems pretty promising. And funny enough, he's actually right, which we've seen on multiple occasions. In Emperor Doom, the graphic novel, Doom gets bored with the world domination that he's achieved, so he just gives it up when Wonder Man challenges him. Another point in history saw him looking into the future, with the one future future ruled by Doom being the only one with total peace. And he even proves that he's capable of instigating peace on a not so terrible level, to an extent, in his home of Latveria, where he ruled. He's actually pretty good at ruling, and he clearly knows that he's the one qualified for the job, but just like, maybe don't be so evil about it, Doom. Up next, number 4, Norman Osborn. During the Dark Reign story arc, Osborn saw himself as a savior, which becomes very much apparent during his big monologue at the end of Siege. Osborn was granted some serious power at the end of Secret Invasion, which followed the Skrull invasion of Earth, when he became the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. His reign of terror was prompted by a desire to make the world a safer place, all by not letting anyone just become a superhero. Using the Superhuman Registration Act, he was able to enforce this without having any massive backlash, but was also still pretty evil. Up next at 3, Negan. Negan has always been a mega asshole. Fans of the Walking Dead comics who were introduced to him long before his debut in the Walking Dead television series knew that he was capable of some pretty gruesome stuff, although both TV show and comic managed to depict Glenn's death in a pretty horrific, gruesome manner. Negan was the leader of a group called the Saviors. Yeah, pretty fitting of this list. And the group followed a strict set of rules, making it almost cult-like. Negan himself is a jolly, savage individual who adores mayhem, violence, and manipulation. Despite his fondness for these things, the character firmly believes that the strong are meant to protect the defenseless, and that if they were to give in to harming those who were defenseless, they would be unable to rebuild civilization. Although he is a little hypocritical. Up next, number 2, Thanos. Heads up, MCU spoilers at this number. Although we already kind of spoiled Civil War, but you should have seen that by now. Of course, Thanos has to be on this list. His whole shtick is that by using the Infinity Gauntlet and all of the stones, he will be able to balance the universe, which apparently is done by killing off half of all living beings within it, something that he admits wholeheartedly to Gamora when discussing his intentions with her in the Avengers Infinity War film. It's not just the MCU Thanos that thinks he's saving the universe though. The one in the comics is also convinced that he's doing the right thing, except his motivation is arguably worse. He's doing it in order to get Death, the entity that is, to find him worthy and return his love. The MCU version, at least from what we currently know about Thanos, has not been connected to Mistress Death yet. It fits more so into the villain with a facade of a savior category, especially considering how much he grieved when sacrificing everything he's ever loved in order to get the job done. That being said, in the comics he does conquer a lot for the sake of conquering, although isn't overly great about it. And finally, in at number 1, Ozymandias. The only reason Adrian Veidt tops the Mad Titan on our list is because of how close to home his master plan hits, which is quite literally hitting home in the comics and the Watchmen cinematic adaptation. Dude kills 3 million people in order to achieve world peace. So, for context, Watchmen takes place in an alternate timeline where superheroes emerged in the 1940s, and their presence altered history, leading to the US winning the Vietnam War and having the Watergate scandal never exposed. This timeline has led to a more potent Cold War, in which nuclear war between the US and Russia is inevitable, with only the fiercely powerful Dr. Manhattan in the way of international genocide. Throughout Watchmen, Veidt's motives are uncovered by Rorschach and Night Owl, after the comedian's death has left the former on a hunt to unravel a conspiracy which he initially believes is an attempt to kill off the remaining costume heroes. By the time they catch up with Adrian, he's already executed his plan, to divert the nuclear threat by giving humans a singular cause to rally against, in the comics a fake alien invasion, and in the film adaptation, against Dr. Manhattan himself, although both plans in the comics and the films involve distracting Manhattan flawlessly. After Adrian carries out his plan, he turns our hero's attention to the news broadcast airing across the globe, all of which prove that he has indeed prompted global peace, which causes everyone but Rorschach to agree that concealing the truth is the best way to maintain that peace. Alright, there we have it, friends. So which of these villains do you think could actually be a savior if they ditch their evil ways? And do you think that any of them have the potential to actually do some real good for their respective worlds? I mean, my money's on Doom, really. Let us know all of your thoughts and feels in those comments below. And give us a shout if you think that there are other villains that should have been featured on this list. If you're in the mood for more villainous videos, we've got a ton on our channel featuring your favorite baddies from all sorts of comics. So head on over there or click the playlist floating on your screen right now for more Top 10 Nerd. If you dug this video, please spread the love by hitting those like and subscribe buttons. And in the meantime, thank you all for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.